On this week's episode of Good For You, Friends Don't Let Friends.
Not read embedded.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Like Spock.
Hello and welcome to
Good For You.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Good for you.
Good For You, a podcast about the things we ghosted, the purchases that haunt us, and the best products, services, and industry happenings in the wellness, well-being, and spiritual space. We're going to give you a healthy little dose of fun. We're going to talk about the things that are happening in pop culture, the ones that got away, the things in our cart that are haunting us or ghosting us, our strong opinions
that are loosely held. We like to call this the Grext.
The group text.
The group text in your ear. So come say hello. Join us in the audio Grext, where friends don't let friends get scammed.
Hi, Wallace.
I'm Michelle.
You know what drink that you need to try? The Poppy, Poppi. Yeah, there's a Dr. Pepper flavor. Dude, it tastes like Dr. Pepper. It's really good.
Down. I really like an Erewhon to open up somewhere down here, which I don't think will ever happen, but
I'll let them know.
Yeah, please send the message.
Yeah, it tastes really good. And unfortunately, Olipop's Dr. Pepper tastes like actual cough medicine. It's disgusting. No offense, Olipop. I ride hard for you, but I simply cannot. So Poppy, I bought one because I was like, I'm going to try it. And then I made Ethan buy like 5 more when he went to the store. Mm-hmm.
You know, we have a lovely guest today that we can't wait to talk about because we are longtime fangirls of said guest and her newsletter.
We really are.
But before we do that, we have something that popped up that we thought we should talk about.
Good for you.
Good for you? Good for who?
Good for you.
Over the weekend, it was announced that Kristen Bell's CBD skincare brand, Happy Dance, is closing down. And the reason that they cited, which honestly is really surprising, I feel like Kristen Bell is like one of the biggest celebs that we have, and she has multiple businesses. Like she has this Happy Dance company, and then she also has
But she had a kids line.
Yeah, it's called Hello Bello, and we have some of their diapers, and they make everything. They have like diapers, wipes, stuff to wash your kids with, sunscreen. It's like honest company, but Kristen Bell, and they sell it at Target. Yeah. But apparently they're closing down because people don't really want CBD. They want THC products.
Whoa.
That was what they cited. They cited that because it won't get you high, people are kind of just like, I'm interested in getting high. That's what I prefer to do. And it sounds like the company that, did this in collaboration with Kristen Bell that created like the CBD and THC company that helps her make her products. They're shuttering this side of the brand that they've kind of helped, I'm assuming, fund, because they're just seeing more and more people want to get high. They don't really want CBD stuff. They want the good stuff.
Let the people get stoned. I think there has been a waffling and questioning of the CBD cosmetic space for a while.
I'm so unsubscribed from CBD because I'm convinced it's a scam. I know it's not, but that's how I feel.
Well, most people want CBD and a very small bit of THC. And then I'm like, well, then is it just the THC? I don't know.
Right. Do you just like being stoned? Like, what's the deal? Which is fine. Yeah. The parent group is called Kronos Group, and their financial reports say that true cannabis demand lies in edibles with THC, not like CBD skincare products or beauty products with CBD, or even it sounds like THC skincare products to help with like pain relief.
So what I want to know is how is Martha Stewart's CBD skincare empire? Because she has a whole line of CBD cosmetics.
She has gummies though too, right? Like she does the hard stuff in addition to the beauty stuff.
That's true. But this idea of like CBD wellness topicals, I think has always been suspect.
I completely agree. And I feel like this is part of our trend report of 2023 where we said green beauty kind of out, kind of in its flop era. And I think that this is a signal of that. CBD skincare products, not so much. They want the hard stuff. They want the real stuff. They don't want the slight entry. But although I will say CBD has been the gateway drug, I feel like, for a lot of people. They were right about marijuana. CBD is the gateway drug to harder stuff. And we needed CBD walked so mushrooms could run, so psilocybin could run,
Fly. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like you're flying at that level.
What the fuck is everyone doing with their
CBD cosmetics?
Are you just throwing them out? Or what's happening?
You don't see people very often publicly come out and say, yep, we're shutting this business down. Here's why. Being very straight about it.
Yeah. I love the transparency. I think that's very cool. I mean, I don't think Kristen Bell said this directly, but the Kronos company, the parent group, the parent company did. So
the parent group of
the mom group of CBD. I mean, Kristen Bell, I hope you're okay. I'm sure you'll be fine with your busy billions that you're making off of Hello Bello and
seriously.
Frozen. I'm sure you're fine.
Yeah. So good for Kristen Bell?
Honestly, probably good for Kristen Bell. Good for Kronos Group. Probably good for consumers everywhere because we just don't need more overpriced skincare products that are unnecessary. Good for the people who are anti-overconsumption. I'd say good for all. A good calling down.
Good for everyone.
Yeah. Sorry to anyone who lost their job. Not good for you. I hope that you get a new job. I'm not hoping that you get fired. But probably in general, this is a good for everyone.
We would love to hear from you.
No shade to CBD. If you love it, fantastic. I'm so happy it works for you. Wish it could be me.
Likewise.
Not who you want, ladies.
Sorry. No. Not us.
Not us.
Nope.
All right, let's get to our guest on the pod today is none other than Kate Lindsay from one of our favorite Substack newsletters, Embedded, which, Michelle, you got me on a few years ago, actually.
It's the Substack that started it all.
Honestly.
For me, at least. Actually, Emily Rousseau is the first Substack that I subscribed to. She had Substack like when Substack first started.
Always ahead of her
time. Probably 3 or 4 years ago. She's always ahead of her time. Cosmic Edges.
It's a great
You
read.
should get it. Everyone should get it. But yes, Kate was the other person. Kate brought me back. Embedded brought me back to Substack in the early pandemic because she was reporting on TikTok trends and I was like, I don't understand TikTok and I'm feeling old and I really want to get it. Tell me more about it. And I have found the writing on Embedded to be so consistently interesting and consistent in tone where it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it also addresses that like a lot of what's happening in pop culture and is happening in the world, we're seeing in a microcosm on TikTok or in social media. And I kind of feel like that's what this podcast is about, exploring trends and what they say about greater human consciousness.
Mm-hmm. They have this really awesome Friday feature called My Internet, and they basically interview somebody on the internet and what their browsing habits are, what their social media, shopping habits, like all these different things, who they follow, what they think is interesting. And it's so good for people who are nosy internet people like us, where I'm like, what apps are you using? Do you really use all those apps? Show me.
Yeah, it is the best. It's like looking at someone's search history.
Yes, exactly.
Which is infinitely interesting. I don't care who you are.
Post the screenshots. We had a great conversation with Kate and it kind of meanders all over the place, but we talk a lot about TikTok and macro and micro trends. We talk about her sexy unique scam, her haunted cart.
Her sexy unique scam is so good. You're going to like it. And you should follow Embedded. It's a great newsletter, especially I would say if you're not dialed on TikTok or you're maybe social media wary, but you still want to stay engaged in the world and what's happening in the zeitgeist. You should check it out. It's fantastic. It's a really good read.
Amen. Let's get into it. Okay, Caitlin. Do you have any other secret names we should know about?
No, sometimes people call me Kathy because they just like assume when they see.
I said Caitlin. Oh my gosh, I meant Catherine.
No, but I get all of them. And also Caitlin also gets me because it's Kate Lindsay. And so it's like they're halfway through saying my full name. So yeah, literally I'm like a dog. Like if you just vaguely kind of say a sound, I'll be like, yeah, what's up? Yeah.
Welcome to Good For You. We are so happy to have you here on the pod.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, Kate, would you say you're the main force behind Embedded? Because I think you started it with your boss, right?
Yes. So he is very kindly edits the pieces and, does all the stuff that does all logistical stuff of I don't think this newsletter would not exist without him because he would be the one that's like, okay, we need to stick to a schedule and we need to do stuff that try and get subscribers. Whereas I just, literally am just like, I want to write about this TikTok I saw. And so, I do most of the writing. He does the weekly Friday My Internet survey. He's in charge of that, and he edits all my work. But yes, I do majority of the writing. I try to get him to write, and he won't. He gets newsletter shy.
So he's kind of your bitch.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're...
that's good. Yeah. that's exactly what it is.
You're the face of Embedded. And before we started recording, Wallace and I were waxing poetic about how I think it's one of the first Substacks that both of us followed and subscribed to. The Substack that got us to Substack.
Oh my God.
And now you've been doing it for almost 2 years, which is a long time. And is that your full-time gig?
Now it is, yes.
Wow. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's very
snaps.
It's my full-time gig in the sense that it is my main thing that I'm doing now. It's kind of like I'm going out on a limb a little bit with it, but hoping for the best. Before that, I was at The Atlantic for a year on their newsletter program, and also did some writing for them. And it was kind of like, I loved being there, and being able to write for them made me kind of realize that I really just want to focus on writing.
Yeah.
Which is what I had done before at Refinery 29. And I kind of had just been, burned out is such a cliche thing at this point, but I just gotten burned out on writing. And so when I saw the opportunity to kind of take a step back and be behind the scenes at The Atlantic, I took it, but it was kind of like, that's what I needed. And now I really want to get back into writing, which I had always been doing with Embedded, but now not doing it like on Sunday evenings or like secretly before, maybe a little bit during work. Yeah.
Well, I can't help but be like behind the scenes. What were you doing there as part of the newsletter program?
Yeah. So literally, that does sound more dramatic or intriguing than it was. I was literally like building the post, hitting send, looking at like the data with the rest of the team, figuring out
deep in the CMS.
Yeah. Like subject lines, social was the big thing. I wrote like all the social copy for the newsletters, really just like one part of sort of this very small but mighty team that like kept it running, because it really was like running a publication within a publication.
Yeah.
So I wish it was, I'm trying to think about any like sexy, intriguing stories from behind the newsletters, but I don't think so. Yeah.
Did you go into the office, the new one?
Yes.
It's in Soho, right?
Yeah, it is.
Just a cool $200 million office, something like that.
So I'm like the one person I've ever seemed to run into who like really likes going into the office. But
I'm the only one I know.
Yeah, I'm literally the only one I know. So I mean, I like it because I love just like clomping around and gossiping with people and like drinking their Diet Coke.
I love not working.
Yeah, I love, like, I'm like, I'm not like, I love sitting down at the desk and like really getting deep on a newsletter. It's like, I like walking around and like overhearing a conversation that I want to be part of and like inserting myself into it. Like that whole stuff I like.
Important stuff. I miss that too. Mm-hmm. I don't take that for granted. I think there's so much that happens in those exchanges that now I'm at least sometimes trying to recreate at coffee shops, and the baristas just don't have it.
Right. You gotta do a little quip and they're like, no. Yeah.
They won't let you drink their drink, you know?
Right? Yeah, they're like, you have to pay.
So weird.
Yeah. Do me a favor, don't do me no favors. Don't talk to me until I have my morning coffee. Don't talk to me until I have my morning coffee.
There are so many things. As we were preparing for this episode, I was like, how do we even choose of all the internet topics to talk about? But one of the things that I love that you've been doing is your Friday series, where you interview extremely online people with extremely online questions. And I love the variety of internet surfing habits that people share. But I'm kind of curious if you've noticed any trends over, when did you guys start doing that?
I think that was pretty early on. I think that was probably around when it started. The stuff that sticks out to me, because I'll always read them before they go out, is that nobody seems to like Pinterest, but I love Pinterest.
Me too.
I also love Pinterest.
Yeah. There's so much hate for Pinterest. Everyone's like, can it be Tumblr? And it's like, no, it's
like,
so not.
We always have like, one of the questions is always like, when was the last time you used Pinterest? And all the answers are always like, 10 years ago, like, or like, they're like, I hate it, or people really hate, which is a thing, is how Pinterest has kind of disrupted Google. And so when you go to like search for an image or something, it'll take you to like a Pinterest post, and that really bothers people. So I think that's why. Another trend that surprises me is people are over voice notes or voice memos to each other.
I noticed that.
And I guess when I think about my own use, I had like a heyday of just like sending them back and forth. And now everyone is kind of like, and when they see that their friend sends them a voice note, it's like, oh. And I do kind of get it, because it's like, if I'm on the couch, like watching TV, like with like my boyfriend or something, it's like, hold on, I have to go into another room, or I have to pause this, or because you don't know what they're going to say in this voice memo. And so like lots of times my friend will send one in like a group chat, and someone will respond like, can I play this in front of whoever? And they'll be like, yes or
You're
no.
on speaker, basically.
Yeah, literally. It's like, and it's just like,
I love the consent though.
I
feel like that's so polite.
I would never even think to do that. I'd just be like, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a little bit selfish. It's like, are you about to say something in this that says something about me that I don't want other people to find out about?
100%.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I kind of have some dread when someone sends me a voice memo. I definitely put off listening to it, but I love Slack's feature where if you send a voice note, it has the transcription. Yes. I'm like, I like that. I'm into
that's interesting. I've only done the voice memo over Slack once, and it was at the Atlantic, and it was explaining, I love Great British Bake Off, and one of our newsletter writers had written about it, but the question was in the US it's called, the British version in the US is called the Great British Baking Show, and we were trying to figure out what it should be referred, because people colloquially refer to it as Bake Off. You can see why this needed to be a voice memo, because
it's confusing.
And so the writer was like offhandedly calling it Bake Off, and we were having this like, do we italicize that, or is that do we need to change it? And like, so I did this whole thing explaining. So I used it in that way, where it's like, and it is helpful, where it's like, if I were to type this out, it actually would be harder to understand because it's too many words.
And you'd sound unhinged.
Yes, right. Yeah.
I kind of threw you into the deep end being like, so what trends?
No, yeah.
But we've been talking about trends for the past 2 weeks on the pod. And because you are an extremely online person, okay, I wanted to clarify, how do you guys determine extremely online?
It's hard. Everyone is like online, and there's tiers to it now. I mean, it kind of has a new connotation now, like chronically online is like is like a term now. And the sort of the idea of that is that your brain has been so warped by like how the internet does discourse that it's a lot about being offended or having an argument or making a point that requires doing a lot of like mental gymnastics to even understand. So there's that. Yeah. When I think about like extremely online, it's like when I talk about a TikTok that I've seen, and like usually all of my immediate friends will be like, oh, I got that one. And so I think it's more about like in your own community versus like an objective online. Cause you just like, it's not possible to consume all the content on the internet. So I think it's more just how do you define it within your own circle? And if I say something that they haven't seen, I'm like, oh, I tipped too far into some part of the algorithm.
I gotta see some nature. I gotta get off.
Literally, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, the way I know that I've been scrolling too long on TikTok is not when I get one of those like you've been scrolling for too long things, but when I get a horse hoof cleaning video or something like that, where it's just like, okay, I've done something.
Too late. It's time to go to bed.
I feel like I've entered another Venn diagram of content that I'm not sure that
I did something that the algorithm was like, she wants to see a horse hoof being cleaned, and I was like, whatever that is, I shouldn't have done it, and I'm out.
Yeah. I feel like the reason I followed Embedded was because you guys really were bullish on TikTok 2 years ago, and not everyone was.
Yeah.
And you were like taking it very seriously. It felt like it more seriously than a lot of outlets or anyone that I followed. And I was like, I'm old, or I felt old. And I really wanted to understand like what's happening on TikTok. Like, what is the Charli D'Amelio thing? Like, why? To what end? I've never seen her come across my For You page, by the way.
Oh man. That's so interesting. Yeah.
And I would say I'm an extremely online person. How did you know? Like, what was the inkling that was like the little voice in your head that was like, TikTok is not just this like kids app flash in the pan thing. It's going to take over.
Yeah, well, cause I feel like the pandemic really legitimized TikTok, because I remember I was at Refinery 29 before and at the very beginning of the pandemic, and it was such a fight to cover TikTok because at that time, anytime you put TikTok in the headline, it just bombed. Like, which is so weird to think of now, because now TikTok in the headline is like so common. They'll be like, oh, TikTok is obsessed with this thing. But at Refinery, I think it was too new. People didn't understand it. People were kind of turned off by it. It felt like, I think seeing TikTok in the headline automatically made people be like, I'm not going to understand this.
They're like, what is this, Vine?
Right. Yeah, we had to be really creative with how we would cover stuff and not put TikTok in the headline, but like kind of find a side door into it. And then TikTok was just like all that there was when the pandemic, I mean, I watched a lot of YouTube and I still watch a lot of YouTube. And I don't think YouTube's going anywhere, but, it was like, in terms of everything shutting down, the only new thing happening were TikTok videos or like bad news. And so that's like all I did. But then, I mean, I wish I could say it was like I had some actual like professional opinion about, it was more just like everyone was there and at TikTok, like, and I still feel this way and I feel like I'm somehow cheating. Like story ideas just get served to me because they show up in front of me. And I also think TikTok is like the closest place we have to just like real time video of every single person on the planet. And so it's any trend you want to see is being documented on TikTok. And it is not even like TikTok invents it. It's just like a window into what everyone is doing at any given time. And so it's just like really easy to see patterns. And so it's like, I knew it was big just from like watching industry stuff change. Like I'd gone to VidCon, I think the year before the pandemic, and it was all TikTokers. I'd gone thinking I was going to like do this big piece about YouTube and how it had been like 10 years of VidCon and all this stuff. And no one was even talking about YouTube there. It was TikTok. Wow. And that was like a very niche thing. But I think that was how I kind of knew, like, it's all very trickle down. And like, if all the people who have the money are talking about TikTok, then we're going to be talking about TikTok. And so like last night I was scrolling before bed and I wrote down 2 different ideas for embedded posts just from stuff I saw. So it honestly feels like I'm cheating, but it's just like that's where everything is happening. If you just keep tabs on it, you'll just run across stuff.
Well, and it's happening so quickly. Do you ever feel like this is an extremely online person? I feel like sometimes I borderline cross into chronically online where I'm like, whoa, I got to pull myself back here. But we're like, well, I saw, let's say the Tarte influencer thing. Right. That was last week. Like that was 5 days ago. I'm not going to talk about that, even though it's still relevant, you know, it's like still in the news cycle. How do you keep up with like just how quickly things happen and evolve in real time on the app?
I think I try, and I do this sometimes if the timing works out with like when we post up, but for the most part, if there's like an event, I try, like embedded, I try not to have it be like an explainer on a viral moment, a little bit because of what you said, like it moves so fast, but also like every other place is doing that because they want to get like the SEO, like they're like correctly, they're like, let's capitalize on this moment. I think more like when like events are happening, I'll try to like make a note of it, and more often I'll be like, okay, a collection of similar things have happened, so we can kind of draw a larger thing about it. Like I think it was the end of last year. There had just been a few different instances of influencers openly lamenting their workload or like sort of just like airing a grievance the way anyone would for any job. And obviously got just like insane backlash because to the viewers, they just get sent free products and talk about them all day. And so, and I just had noticed a few times creators, you know, lament, and like we like a thing at Refinery, we would say 3 is a trend. And I would say for embedded, my thing is 2 is a trend because if there's 2, there's going to be a 3rd. And so like the way to like get on top of it is my base is 2 and then I just write it. And usually it kind of works out, or it feels like not too early.
When worlds collide, you can run, but you can hide.
Do you think that TikTok actually has a chance of being banned in the US over the next little while? I feel like this is one of the debates where I'm like, is this really actually ever going to happen?
I think no. I think at this point it's too much part of the culture, and makes important people too much money. Anything, it's just going to have a different owner. But I think I haven't even, like, I only have found out from like 1 or 2 like questions like that I've seen floating around that this was even something that was coming back up again, because I remember I think it was 2020 when there was all this, you know, fear about that, and people were posting their YouTube links and like, you can find me here, and like literally like the Titanic was sinking and then nothing happened. And then like kind of similarly with Twitter, everyone was like, all right, this is over. Here's where you can find me, all this stuff. And then it's still there and they're still there. And so I think I have a little bit of skepticism because we've like really, honestly, not since Vine have we like ever seen a social media company fully just disappear out of nowhere. The fact that there's so many people on TikTok, like they have more than a billion active users, like that is like, that's too powerful for them to just like get rid of it. If whatever happens, I'm like certain it's going to be really boring. It's just going to be like this new company owns it, or because like even with Elon Musk owning Twitter, like I've noticed some things, but like my user experience really has not changed at all. It's more just what people are talking about. And so I think I've learned to just not get wrapped up in all that because normally it is never as exciting as you think it's going to be.
No. And it's also usually the Senate caught up after 2 years and they're like, oh, wait, we need to regulate this. And then they fumble for at least 6 months to a year. And they're like, we have no idea what this app actually does.
They don't know what it is. Yeah.
I think about that video of the senator being like, can you get rid of the Finstas?
Yes, get rid of Finstas.
Will you commit to ending Finsta?
Senator, again, let me explain. We don't actually do Finsta. What Finsta refers to is young people.
And she's like, no.
Yes. So it's like you guys can busy yourself with that. Like, I'm just gonna keep scrolling.
Yeah.
Your most recent post about the YouTube, what was that? Essence? YouTube Essence?
Nick, my editor, was like, I think you could call it YouTube Essence. I literally wrote that as a joke and was like, whatever, we'll think of something better. But
it worked.
YouTube Renaissance, yeah.
What do you think is happening with that? Like, clearly they're paying creators to make shorts.
Oh my gosh.
Right, yeah. So I just think YouTube, I mean, I'm like biased in the sense that YouTube was like how I got into like everything.
Love YouTube.
Because I still follow like so many of the creators I first followed. I mean, YouTube is never, like, calling it a renaissance is, like, I would say culturally in the way people are talking about it. But if you look at the numbers, like, YouTube has always been number 1 or 2, or definitely always in the top 3 for, like, teens, for just adults in the US. I think because it serves so many purposes. Because I think about it as a place where I go to watch my little vloggers, and like I want to watch like a 40-minute vlog of them cleaning their house, and that's like the dream to me. But people use it as Google. They use it because they want to know how to do things. I watch like the random stuff my boyfriend watches in bed next to me.
Wait, what's on his algorithm? Yeah, we have.
Oh my God, he has the most cursed algorithm. It's like I don't let him watch TikTok at full volume because it's always just like, I mean, there's nothing more annoying than that, but he gets just like, he gets the people, it's wholesome in the sense he gets people who are not viral. He gets people like in Kentucky who have like 40 views on the video, and it's kind of like cringe, but that's who he gets.
Is he cringe watching?
Kinda, because I'll look and I'll be like, this is sad. I don't like watching this. Like, this is not like, because my algorithm is so like polished and you could argue that's like not good because I'm getting like everyone's perfect houses and outfits shown to me, and then I'm like, I don't look like that. But yeah, he gets the literal just random person who, like, I always get videos when they're already viral, and I always wonder when I make videos, like, who are those people who are watching who are in the first like 10 people to see this?
I was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, sometimes you stumble on a video. Okay, great. Well, thank you for his service. Like, you know, he's really helping, you know, the videos hit. We appreciate that.
An early adopter. We all need
exactly.
him.
Yeah. He gets served those videos, and it's, you know, it is a crucial role to be the first viewer, because if I get a video with too many or too little engagement, I am a little bit like, I don't know if this is worth sticking around for. So it really is valiant work, the people who do it.
Yeah, if you're out there, listeners, if you're first to video, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts, we have a couple people we know who work at Google, and they have said, like, they're forecasting that it's going to be huge. Like, bigger than anything that's happened at YouTube in a really long time, especially for creators to get discovered. So if you were trying to like get on the algorithm and go viral again on YouTube, because it seemed like for a couple of years it was pretty hard to reach, you know, the Emma Chamberlain heights, just by like hopping on and getting started. What are you forecasting there? Do you feel like Shorts are going to be as big as TikTok?
Well, what I think is interesting about shorts. And one of the reasons why I think YouTube has done well is that even though they're expanding into shorts, like I think the key thing is I liken it to Instagram, because Instagram also, you know, contorts itself to do whatever the new thing is, but they do it at the expense of what their original concept was. Whereas like on Instagram, I don't, you know, it's like almost like a tired complaint at this point. Like I don't see my friends post. And that's partially because I'm not being shown it, but it's also partially because they're not posting because their content stopped being shown to people. And it's because Instagram is pursuing like algorithm and reels and discovery, and YouTube is doing all those things too. But like if a creator I follow makes a short, that short not only goes into like the sort of the side shorts thing, but it also shows up on the page I go to, which is what I subscribe to. It shows up amongst every other video, or the creators who don't make shorts, their videos still show up for me on my subscribe page. Like they're not being punished for not participating in this thing that YouTube is pushing. And that seems Instagram's main way of pushing something is to kind of punish people for not doing it. Whereas YouTube, like we were mentioning, like they've always been good about paying people. They were one of the very first platforms to like pay people, and people get AdSense money from it. And so they're doing the same with shorts, which TikTok has done, but it's like the creator fund is famously like pays nothing. And so I think YouTube just like it's positive reward versus like Instagram's negative reward, where like, and I think it just makes it and plus everything you've always wanted to use YouTube for is still there. And so I love all my little like they're just like, they feel like my family. Like I've followed them for 10 years now, and they've had babies and houses, and yeah, I love YouTube.
Are you a YouTube Red subscriber?
I was when one time I went to a YouTube event and they gave everyone a free year.
Great reason to subscribe.
Yeah, and I just haven't done, but one of my resolutions this year is to like, YouTube doesn't count as an independent creator, but like pay for independent creators and pay for the things that I enjoy. And so it probably would be worth it for me to do it. But I also have a big problem with just like, this came up when I was preparing for the podcast, not to like give a spoiler for what's to come, but like, preparing for the things that are always in my cart. It's always like boring stuff, because if I'm not literally like dying without it, I have a really hard time like biting the bullet and just getting something. And so that's like the same thing with like streaming services, or I have to hit the paywall for something so many times before I'm finally fine, even though like I can totally like, it would have enhanced my experience for the past 6 months if I had just done it originally.
Totally.
I would say same, except for Substack. I feel like I'm constantly hovering around donating, not donating, pledging, not pledging. And then I just end up pledging to things that I don't read all the time. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather give my money to all of these creators than, you know, the coffee
Once
shop
you
down
break
the street.
the seal, on Substack, I feel like it's so easy to just be like, you know, I'm going to pay everyone.
You have to like reframe it, because and this is what I've had to do, where it's like, it's not like, what am I getting at this price, but like, who am I supporting at this price?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally.
We're taking a quick pause to talk about Open, one of our sponsors.
Open is a mindfulness app built to transform your life. And boy, oh boy, can I just say, Open has made the last 8 months of my life a lot easier. Being able to exercise from home, my own pace and my own timing on the Open app has been a godsend.
I use Open to fall asleep. I use Open to do mini breathwork sessions, and I also love their Pilates. They have the best music curation. They have really amazing guides. We can't say enough positive things about them, and you get to try them free for 30 days, which is an amazing deal because it's such a premium subscription, and it's just a beautiful experience through and through. So we will link your 30 days free in the show notes. Don't miss out. Honestly, even just one little meditation session.
Since you teased it, we want to give you the option, if you have a sexy, unique scam, to air your grievances.
I do have one. I have one.
Okay.
Let's get into the sexy, unique scam.
So I wanted to be on theme of embedded, and I've written about this, but it's still kind of a thing, and I've seen more people talking about it, which is UGC content, which is itself is not a scam, but the culture that has come up around it. So UGC content stands for user generated content, and like on its own, it's when like you post a video of yourself like using a product just for fun, like not because you're doing a sponsored post. And the brand sees it and it's like, oh, can we license this from you and use it? And brands, it's good for brands, especially on TikTok, because when the way ads show up on TikTok, they're just like integrated with the rest of your For You page. And so you really don't want to be you don't want people to know you're an ad, honestly. Like
you don't want it to be polished. You want it to look like,
you want it to look like every other video that person's watching. And so UGC content, I think, has had a bit of a resurgence, or not even resurgence, but the reason everyone's talking about it is because that's really valuable for a brand on TikTok. But the language, the way I was stumbling across it was not like, oh, this is a thing. It was, you are going to make so much money if you make, like, everyone should be getting into UGC content, and, you know, this is how much I make, and language that felt very MLM-y to me, like very like, well, I didn't like it for two reasons. You know, if there was a thing you could do that made you thousands of dollars for little effort, we would all be doing it. So like I don't trust, like, you know, there's no secret thing. But two, it kind of like, it painted the work that influencers do as, cause the whole appeal of it is you don't have to have a lot of followers. The brands just buy it from you for the content, which is great. And so it is more accessible, but to market it as like this thing anyone could do, it feeds into the misconception that people have about influencers, which is that they don't do anything, or that what they do doesn't require any talent or work ethic.
Or that they're extremely overpaid for what they offer the world.
And so being like, oh, like, so the whole thing is like, oh, here's this way to be overpaid for doing nothing, and you can quit your job and like just do this. And like for me, the question is like, the people making these videos, what are they gaining from it? Because that's how it's not like an MLM.
Oh. Okay. Like, I want to double click on that in a second, but continue.
Yes. I want to double click on that. I like that. It's like, what are they gaining from telling people to do this? And I think it's that they get engagement because they're promising this really get rich quick, like the most just like oldest trick in the book. And people are starting to like come around on it. And also the moment brands start, because in the piece I interviewed Rachel Carton, who has a newsletter called Link in Bio, and she's like a social strategist. At the moment brands see how valuable this content is, they're just going to have people make it in-house. Like, and so it's just not something that you can just, I'm sure it is more popular than it used to be, and I'm sure people make money from it, but these videos that were like, you can quit your job and do this, I felt sinister because they were just like feeding off of like people's general unhappiness with their jobs that kind of came with the pandemic, and telling them to do something that was irresponsible. And so that was my scam.
That is a sexy unique scam. Yeah. And this whole time I thought you were going to get at them for using the acronym wrong. I was like, UGC content.
Oh my God, you're right. That is the first time I am top of it all.
Insult to injury right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I do think what a lot of these content UGC creators get out of it is they have like a course or something that teaches you how to like, or even like, oh, I have this whatever, like one pager on like how to pitch brands. Yeah. But I have a double conspiracy on top of your sexy unique scam.
Oh my God, amazing.
I think TikTok is promoting the UGC videos, because I've gotten quite a few of them. I had never engaged with them.
Yeah.
That is so not my brand or what I'm into. I think that TikTok is promoting them because it's getting people to buy more shit and
make more content
and to make more content, even if they don't have followers.
Right. Okay. Well, one, did you see that there was a recent report that I obviously just read the headline of and didn't click on, but like about how TikTok does have like a lever that they pull to like make a video go viral.
Of course
like,
they do.
Yeah.
And just like Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Like,
they just, so like they fully decide. I have wondered, there are times where I'm like, do I like this because I like it or because TikTok decided I like it? And a big thing is the band The 1975. I've never ever.
Same. I'm like, I don't like this guy, but why do I know
unfortunately, well, this is the thing, because unfortunately now I'm like, I would die for this man who I met 3 months ago on TikTok. And I'm like, this band existed for years and years and years. And I realized I had heard some of their songs before, and nothing had happened in my brain. And then with TikTok, it just kept serving it to me. And now it is every other video still. And I am like, I know everything about them, and I've never Googled him once. But I just know everything.
Yeah. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome with certain things where you're just like, you're so confronted with it consistently.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess so. Whatever.
Yeah.
almost 2 years ago now, I was hired by TikTok for the Creators Learning Fund. When they were doing EduTalk, so that they hired comedians and then they hired dancers and then they hired a ton of influencers, which I was not. I ended up getting this through a friend who I did TV writing with, and it is creepy to know exactly how much every 4 weeks they're gaming every aspect of your watching habits. And I don't know if it's still happening that quickly, but when we were there, we would have meetings with them where they would be like, okay, here are the updates as of last week to the algorithm. So this is what you need to do now. And it's 100% believe that they're promoting those videos because it's just time spent on app. And how can we get people more addicted to the idea that they could be one of those people who makes a check for $35K like those kids did for posting the face filters on Reels?
Oh my God, yeah. Like, there's a sinister undercurrent to a lot of this because it is just preying on people wanting to, you know, like come into a lot of money and that, especially like right now, like there are a lot of people who could really, like the economy's shit. Like, and so I don't know, it feels a little bit like that TV reality show that was scrapped that was going to have like different charities compete or something. It was Jamil was going to be on it. And it is ostensibly a good thing, but like the reasons behind it, I don't know, it just is icky sometimes when I think about it. And that's why I have a lot of sympathy for creators because like the algorithm will just change and that's their whole livelihood. And it'll change because it behooves TikTok for people to not, that sense of like, will this go viral? Then people need to wonder that. And so the moment you've cracked the code, they're going to change it because if you figure it out, that draw is going to be gone. Whereas like they really get you because you're like, is this going to work? And then when it works, it's really satisfying. And when it doesn't, like, okay, I'll try again. If I think about it too hard, I'm like, oh, this is gross. Anyways, let me spend 2 hours on the app.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, we kind of have like an anxious attachment, I think, creators to TikTok, right? And TikTok is kind of the avoidant, like, lover or whatever. It's like, oh my God, stop trying so hard. You're just grossing me out. Right. But we just like we want to go viral. It feels so good.
Right. And there's like nothing I've been grappling with because like when I see videos I'm very much like, oh, I want to do that, I want to make a video like that looks fun, and that there's such a thing in my head of like, if it flops, are people gonna like look at my video and think I like tried to be an influencer and was bad at it, like and it's just like that I wish I could just make it and it doesn't matter how many views it gets because like making it was fun and like I can say that out loud, but like the moment it doesn't do well I'm like, oh my God, should I delete this because people are gonna think that like I don't know. They're just it's hard to see, like, I was just doing this. You can't claim ignorance of, like, that TikTok can just make anyone go viral. And so it's hard to feel like people can believe you or even really to believe yourself if you're like, oh, I'm just making it for fun. I didn't think about whether or not this was going to make me famous. Like,
well, especially even to your point about covering the cringe trend too. There's such a mechanism behind it too. So
yeah, like, I mean, any Gen Z could go viral right now by just like claiming to not know a song from the 2001.
Right.
And they would work. That used to be something that like people who were paid to prey on those impulses, and now we're like all aware of them. We all are like creators and all being.
Well, they're so predictable too, and I'm like all for it, but I'm also a sucker for each pendulum swing.
Yes, same.
I think that's a perfect segue. Speaking of being a sucker and pendulum swings of trends, about your haunted cart. Haunted cart. Now, you said you're not necessarily one to just impulse purchase on products necessarily.
Which I'd like to say we also don't condone. Fine. We condone thoughtful purchases.
Yeah. I feel like I wrote down like the equivalent of like Liz Lemon from 30 Rock's cart. Like,
perfect.
Like just like the worst stuff, but like
night cheese.
Working on my night cheese. Right. Literally. Yeah. Well, because I was literally thinking about this as I was getting ready, and the pandemic like accelerated this. I mean, I don't think I was this bad for the pandemic, but it just, when I was staying at home every day, I was very much like, oh, like I would run out of certain makeup product and be like, well, what's the point? I don't need to get another one. And then like, and that happened with everything, where I just got so listless that any sort of routine maintenance that I usually did for myself, once I like hit the end of the thing and we were still in lockdown, I was like, well, whatever. And like, I don't need to get this now. And then even as we've like reemerged and like things feel like, you know, pretty normal again, I have had trouble. I'm like, oh, I didn't die not doing those things. And so but like I was looking in terms of the one shopping cart or, digital that kind of has existed is actually on Pinterest. Every year my family makes our Christmas list on Pinterest.
Smart. Visual learners.
Yeah, visual with the link, with comments being like in this color, this, like,
oh, I love this.
Yeah. But the thing that has been on it every year, and I don't know why I don't just buy it for myself, is the GHD hair straightener. Every single year it is in there. No one buys it for me because it's expensive. No one buys it for me. I put it on every, like literally I drag it now from the last year's board on it. I don't even do a new link. Like,
you like
no one gets it. And I'm like, why don't I just get it? And I think it's because like, literally it's the same pandemic thing. It's like, so people see my hair and it's like a little bit straighter. Like this is my natural hair and it's like whatever.
And your hair's great. I was actually thinking you have really good hair. You have a great haircut. Yeah.
Like when I sit here right now, I'm like, sometimes I operate like I'm in like a bunker, and it's like, you can actually just like want something because you think it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So that specific hair straightener, every year when I don't get it for Christmas, because my parents are like, why would we buy this? This is expensive.
Maybe you're afraid of what you would want and lust for if you did have it.
I know.
Maybe you would cease to desire anything at all, and what would life be like?
It is the one constant every year. I'm like, well, I gotta put the hair straightener.
Your white whale.
Yeah. And similarly, every year on the list is one of those like bajillion dollar number 6 clogs that like Brooklyn moms wear around.
So cute.
Yeah, those every year. It's similar. My parents are like, this is $1 bajillion. Like, why would I do this video? So every year that same pair of clogs is on it. And then this one is the most Liz Lemon.
Lizzing is a combination of laughing and whizzing.
I don't know why I don't just get, this is sort of taking the concept of a digital card very like broadly, but I don't know why I don't just get laser hair removal for my upper lip.
Yes, laser hair removal in general is haunting me, but also because I feel like it should be something you can do at home. I refuse to believe that I have to pay hundreds of dollars to go to a med spa.
Like 12 times, not just once. You have to keep
going. It's ridiculous.
Like, you have to keep going. Like I guess it makes me mad because I want to be someone who's like, this is like the fact that I even have to like do maintenance on a natural part of my body. Like, I think it's the same thing with the hair straightener. I'm like, well, like the caveman me didn't need to do this. So like, why am I like spending money on it? But then at the same time, I've really fallen for what I really think is an old wives' tale about like, if you take the hair out, it grows back stronger. And so I just like,
I don't know. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I'm too nervous, especially for something like the upper lip. And so I just bleach and I walk around with like this little white mustache like once a month. And I'm just like, why? I could just get rid of it. I could just get rid of it. But I just never bite the bullet. I think on principle because I'm like, I just think about like my boyfriend doesn't have to do any of this. Like,
no beauty labor.
Literally last night, we were like talking. I just like sometimes I get like, when you're talking to a man, like sometimes you're just like, I'm teaching you sexism for the first time.
Yeah. Especially when you live with them.
Right.
Yeah. It's like charity, honestly.
We were talking last night about, I'm like, oh, there's no equivalent for a woman of a silver fox. And he was like, no, there's gotta be. There's gotta be a term. And I'm like, no, it's old woman. Like, it's
old
like,
maid.
Yeah. And
old hag.
And he was like, what about MILF? And I'm like, no, because even that itself, he's like, you guys get MILFs. No one really is a DILF. And I'm like, no, we get MILFs and because it's like.
How about Zaddy?
Right. Literally, there's that. You get Zaddy. And also MILF is like, rests on the assumption that normally you don't want to fuck a mom. But that one you do. It's like, even that, the thing that's like a compliment is like, you're like, oh, you're an exception to the rule. You're a mom I'd actually like to fuck. So I'm sure he loves just having these sort of every few months lessons on sexism. We'll be walking. There's a way that we walk to the subway and there's like kind of like a subway section where you have to either walk around through like a really small alleyway where everyone pees or there's like another way around it. I was going to go through the alleyway and he was like, no, why would you go through the piss alleyway? And I was like, because this way there's like a group of men who always sit there staring when you walk by and make comments. And I'm like, literally my choice every time I get off the subway is piss for men. And he like doesn't have to think about it.
Yeah. He doesn't have to think about like the inevitable chance that you will have a serious stalker every time.
And the fact that I choose piss most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to do this one.
Yeah. You're like just the ghost of men. I prefer that to like the actual men.
Right. Like I can hold my breath and walk through this little section.
Right.
I can't control what might happen when I walk this way.
Ugh.
Good evening. Tonight's top story, everything is awful.
I will also just want to say, Kate, that your cart is sort of like classic and timeless.
That's so interesting. I literally was like, this is so boring.
No, evergreen, actually.
It's like, you know, ascended beyond the trend cycle. Like the fact the GHD straightener, it's still a fucking great straightener.
Well, it's kind of Y2K of you, a little.
Literally it is because that is what all my YouTubers used back when I was in like high school. And oh my God, I could never, and there's like a whole trend now actually. This is one of the things I wrote down, like de-influencing, which is like on TikTok, people basically
being like, don't
do this. Basically they'll list all those things. Like, wait, did I actually see one of you drink out of it? Like it was like like those things. Yes. And they're like, that's something where they're like, I think people are just becoming like TikTok is showing overconsumption in a way that's like a little more unavoidable. And you're just seeing like these hauls people do. And so I think there's like a reaction to it of like, here are all the things that TikTok tells you to buy that I bought that you shouldn't, because it was like, this didn't really change my life. And so I'm seeing like those types of cups, which are good. And I think everyone should have reusable stuff, but it's like, you just need one.
It's okay, Kate. You can hate on my water bottle. It's all right.
No, I think it is good, but I think there's like this is like a soapbox, but there's like a sneaky capitalistic sustainability that somehow when you need to buy more to
zero
be
waste is all about buying things.
Right. It's like, okay, it's like actually you need to buy this to be sustainable, and it's like you actually don't. And then like I never fell into this, but certain Uggs, I did fall into the Birkenstocks. I got Birkenstocks.
You got by the Birkenstocks.
They're so comfortable.
Yes, and I didn't have them in high school when they were cool for me and my like they're back, and so now I'm like, I feel like I'm doing it for like 14-year-old me who like didn't have the cool shoes.
Totally.
Those were a trend that you try them on and you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, literally this morning my gynecologist complimented them.
That's how you know you've made it.
Yeah. I said yes.
We were talking about this last week though, and I was rereading one of my favorite Substack writers, Haley Nauman, mentioned this in her newsletter. Anne Patchett did the year of shopping pretty much. And she talks about really the momentum that happens with consumerism, and you get into a habit just like anything else of consuming. And that's really stuck with me, especially as we've been seeing all of these new sustainable retail businesses, or sustainable with quotes, retail businesses popping up. And I'm so curious to see if part of the trends with especially some of the influencers that are more eco-conscious, if they're going to go back to capsule wardrobes. How do we do it from vintage stores or friend swaps and stuff like that? Yeah,
I interviewed her name's Venetia Lamana. She's based in the UK, and she's like a sustainable influencer, and that was like basically they feel almost like antithetical because an influencer wants you to buy things. And so I was just like talking to her, like, how do you do this both like ethically, but also like how do you support yourself? Because her whole thing is like, don't buy clothes, like you already have enough clothes. And like I will say, like, the pandemic, like there's a lot of things where I like wish I hadn't lost the spark, but I do buy way less clothes because I just was like, what was the point? And then now like it is fun to like dive back in and find new combinations. But so that's like her big thing, but it means like she's not getting brand deals from places. So she just is like more creative. Like she does brand deals for sustainable types of companies, but a lot of it is just like different things. Like Sky is a TV channel over there, kind of like a version of having Netflix. And that's something that's not physical. Or eBay, especially because eBay is now the sponsor of Love Island over there, which I love. So like eBay does a lot of events and things like that. And so you just have to be creative, and I think also different types of income streams. But also I think there's been a larger push for just influencers in general to not just be doing influencing, because like it's a very like classic problem of like you follow someone because they're relatable. They get so many followers, they're not relatable anymore, and then they get and it's hard. And so, and also like another creator I follow her name's Brittany Bathgate. She's also in the UK. But she actually took the decision sort of, I think last fall, to step back from influencing to work. She now works like in a gallery, and she still creates, but she didn't want it to be the only way she got income. And one of the reasons she cited was like England in particularly is going through a huge cost of living crisis. And she was like, I can't sit here and tell you to buy shoes when like you might not afford heating. Like, and so I think there is a bit of a,
well, to your point at the top of the episode, paying creators, I feel like creators and influencers are often used interchangeably because there's so much of a crossover, but really they have different connotations and hold different weight too.
Right.
Because when you think about a creator, you really think about someone who is educating or sharing and creating content on many different topics and layers, whereas I feel like just strict influencing, almost like famous for being famous.
Right. And it's the classic, like getting paid by a brand to like hold up a bag or whatever. Yeah. And obviously there's more to it than that, but yeah. And I do actually think, weirdly also, I think a lot of people who like influencers, I've yet to like run into any influencer who like likes that term or like doesn't like make a face when they describe themselves.
It's so, you know, how most people use it colloquially is pretty pejorative.
Yeah.
Like it's not a positive term.
If the people who initially got famous on YouTube were men for what they did, we'd be calling them marketers, not influencers, you know?
Creator is a more apt term because influencing is really only one part of it. Like the creator, I feel like influencer falls under creator because you're making the content, you're creating all the stuff, and you had to build this persona and this brand to have people even trust your recommendations in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could get more of this on Embedded. Seriously, I look forward to your newsletter every week. I also really appreciate that it's often brief.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes,
that is not easy to do.
Yeah, and there are so many Substack that I subscribe to where I'm like, babe, I'm not going to read all that. I'm happy for you though.
I actually really credit this. I took a memoir writing course in college, and they were never allowed to be more than 250 words what you wrote, and it was impossible.
I love that.
But I think like literally it's because like you would just cut it down to exactly what you needed, and I think that changed my writing like forever because I would just go through and be like, I don't need to say that. Like, I mean, it just really it was really helpful in just being like, just say what you need to say and get out.
It always leaves me wanting more where I'm like, oh, I could totally read like so much more. Oh, I'd love to hear her talk about this. And I think that's the best way to make someone feel about your content. It's like, oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. I can't wait to read more.
No, yeah. I feel like there are writers who go long and they can do it really well and you can dive in. But often what I'm writing about also, like, I think there's a tendency sometimes when writing about internet culture for some people to feel like they need to justify it by being really overly intellectual about it.
Yeah.
And like sometimes
it ain't that deep.
You're right. Sometimes you're just kind of writing about something that's stupid that's happening. And, and there's no like larger message. And I think that was a big thing about starting Embedded, that sometimes there is a larger message, but sometimes there's not, and that doesn't make it less valuable. Like it being just fun doesn't make it less like.
Amen. Oh, Kate, it was so great to have you. Thank you so much for being on the pod. We could talk to you forever, but everyone should subscribe to Embedded. It is, it's the place, especially if you're an elder millennial and you're like, I don't know what's happening on the internet. Kate will hold your hand through it.
And if you have your boomer moments, you know, you'll feel seen. But also, if you're dabbling in the Gen Z, what's the next one? Gen Alpha?
Oh my God, yeah, Gen Alpha. They terrify me.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're listening,
if this is on while you're in your crib.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I think I have a Gen Alpha at home, so yeah, I'm a little
I know now. I'm like,
too.
I think they're getting older that I can't even like that joke doesn't even work anymore.
Well, Kate, it was so wonderful to talk to you, and
thanks for coming on the pod.
Yeah, thank you.
But are you also on Twitter or IG? Is there anywhere else that people should connect with you?
Everywhere I am. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok occasionally is Catherine Fiona. I mean, yeah, if you search that, all the links to everything will be there. This is why I can never nail down what people call me.
Yeah. Okay, well, hope you liked the episode. Subscribe. Check out Kate's Substack. It's a great read. You will be smarter for it.
And thanks for listening.
Check out Good For You Pod on IG. And we thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts.
That's right. If you're listening to this because someone shared it with you, The person who shared this with you thinks you're sexy. So
clearly,
that's the secret message embedded. Thanks for getting all the way to the end. You're not a sexy, unique scam. You're just sexy.
You are just point blank sexy. So don't change.
Or do.
Have a great summer.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Good For You is produced by yours truly, Wallace Miller Blanchard. Our theme song is by Parallel Dance Ensemble, and our wonderful editing is done by Softer Sound Studio, who you can find more information about at the link in our show notes.